Welcome, family. Welcome to Financial Freedom. I am your host, Derek Brown. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be discussing credit. We have a couple of wonderful professionals with resumes longer than an octopus tentacle of accomplishments. And we're going to be talking to them today about our credit, some of the legal ramifications, some of the things we need to keep in mind about our money, rebuilding and restoring, using it. So let's dig into the show. Again, welcome to Financial Freedom. The first guest we have coming up is Melissa Hawkins.
Hello,
Melissa
hello,
Hawkins.
hello.
Hey,
Thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Melissa, you have done a litany of great things, but just to name a few, you're a lawyer, you do family litigation, you've also done some estate planning and done some work with planning wills, basically getting people's stuff right. So I'm happy to have you here. Next, we have the good man Dominique DeGiste. He'll be with us as well. He's actually a financial business owner, DeGiste Financial. His resume is incredible. Worked for MetLife and National Financial Service Group. He's committed to serving his community as a mentor and coaching young adults. He's also the president of the South DeKalb Business Association. He's also a proud alumnus of the University of North Georgia, where he got his BS in finance and a little bit more, certified financial education instructor, and just does incredible work. So welcome to you, Mr. DeGiste.
Oh, thank you. I truly appreciate it.
I find it a privilege, and we had a little bit of time to talk before the program, but I really find it a privilege to be able to have both of you here. The time of professionals of your caliber really would be something that you could easily charge for. So I'm happy that you're here. Thank you for your time.
It is
No,
my
thank
pleasure.
you.
Cool. We only have about 30 minutes of the show, so I wanted to dig right in. Let's start off with credit basics. Um, I've talked with this before, and it blows me away a lot how much work people do and get in trouble with just because of the fact that they don't have the idea of the basic mindset when it comes to credit. Let me ask you this. How should we view credit to begin with? And that's for either one of you.
Mr. DeGiste, I'll let you start because I have a very terrible story about how you should not view credit, but I'll give I'll give that after your.
One of the things is what I do believe in. The way you should view credit is using it as a way to leverage to be able to build your future. For some people, it could be for
Okay.
homes, and some people it could be for business. And I think what we end up happening in a lot of people's lives, we start using it as being consumers. We're going shopping. We're able to use our credit to go
Right.
out. You know, and that's one
Yeah.
of the things I hope that we can also change our mindset when it comes to credit.
Right. Let me ask you this. Go ahead, Ms. Hawkins.
I just had a very terrible story, and this is an example of what not to do. Advice comes in two
Okay.
forms. They can tell you what to do and what not to do. So a lot of us,
Okay.
and hopefully not many people watch it, because when I was growing up, we go to college and we get on these undergrad campuses, and you see these dolls and mugs and cups, even in walking through the airport catching a flight, and everyone is telling you,
Right.
hey, this is free, just come sign and get this credit card. And it really does feel like
those good old impulse buys.
Exactly. And it's very tempting, particularly if you are a first generation, college student, and you need some extra necessities and materials that maybe you didn't have. And that was my story when I started undergrad. I walked on that campus and they were handing out pizza parties and a lot of crap that I didn't need, like Frisbees. I don't like Frisbee, right? But thank God that I had a resourceful person in my corner to tell me, this is not for you to use. And I talked to my kindergarten son about being a producer versus being a consumer. So the only thing that I wanted to add from perspective, it's a huge difference. And just like Mr. DeGesto said, you gotta be a producer, not a consumer. So I wanted to just really briefly talk about, opening your own business. That's just one of the things that I know so many of us are doing. That's what I've done. I've had my own business now since 2009. When you have to go through the
Hold
very
on one
many
second,
steps.
Ms. Hawkins. Hold on.
Okay,
Hold
okay.
on. Hold on. 'Cause you're getting ahead of us. You jumping way
Okay.
over there. And we ain't there yet. I need you to hold on.
I can do it.
All
I'm
right.
pumping the brakes.
Yeah.
The brakes.
Look, you excited. I'm with you, though. I'm with you. I love it. All right.
I'm here.
So let's just start here. We're going to get there in a second. All right?
I got you.
Okay. So let's just stick to the basics for a second. You'll come back to the
Okay.
business later. So
Gotcha.
looking at it, leveraging it, Mr. Jujiste, let me ask you this. Should my credit be considered part of my budget?
Should it be part of your budget? I say it
Right.
does. And I think you want
Okay.
to be able to build your debt, build your credit up. One of the things you can do is basically get a credit card and every month pay it off, so you can build up your credit, so you can be able to use it in the future. Because at a young age, you know, like I think Ms. Hawkins had said before, some people might want to be business owners, and some people just might want to just live and be able to live a comfortable life. And so
Right.
so some of the things is that's why I teach my kids in my financial program. I teach them. I say everybody's not a business owner. Some of you, we are worker bees. So what you need to do is make sure you take care of that credit. So in the future, when you decide to buy a house or decide to buy a car, or you decide to be able to invest in a business, you can be able to use that, because that's one of the things that most billionaires and millionaires do. I can bring up a slew of names, but one of the ones that I think that everyone knows real well, and we are talking about right now currently on TV, is Trump. He leveraged a lot of his debts by building his empire. He take loans, don't file bankruptcy, don't pay him, and then he's a billionaire to this day. And you not just
Let me
only
ask
him, but
on
you have
that.
other millionaires. Go ahead.
You brought up something that I want to comment on. Okay. Let me ask you this. When it comes to debt, and this is something I want to keep in mind too. Two things. I want to ask two questions here. One, when it comes to debt, whether for business or otherwise, is all debt created equal?
Mm. I think Dominique is
Mr. Did you
paused. So I think he
say
can't.
Go ahead. I know. Go ahead. I'm waiting for all the energy you got. Go ahead. I'm here for it all day.
No problem. Speaking for personal experience, I am an attorney practicing family law,
Right.
and I've also done municipal finance. And all debt is not created equal. I remember I purchased, I don't even know, maybe 10 houses in my lifetime. And I got a lot of student loan debt. I went to undergrad, I went to law school here at Emory, and that wasn't cheap. And even with scholarships. But when the
Right.
bankers would look my credit report, they would see that student loan debt, and it did not impact me from the ability to be able to buy a home.
Thank you for that differentiation, because I've heard that before, but I think I've never had anyone break it down quite like that. So thank you. Dominique, you left us for a moment.
I'm sorry about
Tell me, from your perspective, Ms. Hawkins gave us some juicy good tidbits. Is all debt created equal? If not, what debt do I need to be focused on if I'm going to use it to improve my credit?
I would say more get a credit card. One of the things is what I teach the young kids in my class is that when I was in college, it was a young lady came. She was 21 years old. She had an 800 credit score. I'm looking like, how do you get an 800 credit
Wow.
score? You just 21 years old. But one of the things her
Right.
parents, but she was Caucasian. Her parents, what they did was they got a credit card in her age of 16, and everything they bought for her, they paid it off at the end of the month. Her and her sister both, when they finished college, had a house and they ended up getting a car in their own names. And so that's one of the things is that we have to do in our community, start early with our kids. And I tell the kids at the schools that I'm at that we need to first start, talk to your parents about getting a checking account so you can learn how to use a debit card first before you can use a credit card.
Let me ask you that. Why, with that comment you just made, let me ask this. When I go to the store, and I know I'm asking some basic questions, but you'd be surprised some of the questions I've had people ask me. And because I have experts with me, I want to be able to say, Dominique said, Ms. Hawkins said. Okay. When I go to the store and I swipe my debit card and I hit credit, Does that work for or against my credit, or not at all?
It all depends. If you use a credit card, because you can have a debit card and use credit, but it's still gonna take it out your checking account. But if you use a credit card and you pay it off at the end of the month, you're building it up. But if you make payments,
Okay.
you're doing good as well. But one of the things that you have
What
to
if
pay
it's a debit card?
a debit card that doesn't help your credit at all. Basically, just withdraw from your checking account.
Y'all don't know this yet, but you just made me $10 on the bet. Okay, so got you.
I need 5
So
for
let me ask you this. What'd you
Right,
say?
right.
I said I need 5 for my Starbucks coffee now.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay, all right. So really, I ain't making no money off that bet. Gotcha. All right. So and Ms. Hawkins, thank you for that as well. That idea that not all credit is made the same, and we're gonna leverage it differently. Let me ask you this: as someone who has, I'm assuming you both have business and personal credit. Is that correct?
That's
Yeah.
That's correct.
Got
And I
you.
want to add on to Eric. When I first started my business, it was brand new, so I could not get any business credit. So they had to rely
Right.
on my personal credit, and that's why personal credit becomes important.
Yes.
Got you. So I would assume that the mentality that goes into business credit and personal credit are not the same. Or are those the same type of principles just applied to a business structure?
I would say yes. One like
So the
she said. Go ahead. I'll let you go ahead.
Hold on. First, let's get Mr. Dominique, you go first, and then Ms. Hawkins, you go.
Just like you said beforehand, long as you at the end of the day, you have to pay everything to make sure that your credit can stay good. First, you got, like she said, you start personal. And once they notice that you can do well personal, they will give you business credit. But because everyone comes to me say, I got a business, I need to get a line of credit. And then you look at them like, okay, then there's other factors that fall in place. What are your account receivables?
Right.
How much money you making? All that plays in the
Right.
factor too, going to the bank to be able to get a loan or get any type of lines of credit. But one of the things that everything do start off personal, and they want to see that you can invest in yourself before seeking to take care of yourself before you can invest in anything else.
Right.
Got you. Ms. Hawkins, go ahead.
The whole idea is to make sure that you are able to make choices later in life, whether you want to be a worker bee or whether you want to be a business owner. And both of those concepts start by doing the very best for yourself. So absolutely go out there and get some personal credit. I wouldn't have had my business without it. When I went to the bank and I said, hey, I've got this new law firm, the first thing they said was, you have to be a personal guarantee. That means that we don't trust this firm that you just opened up 3 days ago because you had $100 to give the Secretary of State's office. If this thing goes wrong, we're coming back after Melissa Hawkins. We're not coming back after this entity because, it's just at that point in time, when I first started, I was working out of my dining room, right? So there was really nothing that they had to that. But when you do right by your creditors, then you show another set of books to the bank, and now they start to see this business now has assets. This business has income received. This business has clients. And now they can actually give you loans in your business name as opposed to your personal name.
Wow. Thank you for
One
that.
thing I'd like to add,
Mr.
Brown, is that one of the things I think in our community too is don't be afraid to ask someone who already been where you're trying to go. Don't be ashamed. And I think what happened in our community sometimes is that we're scared to go to someone and ask them a question because it is a fear that people say, how much you gonna charge? But you got to understand, Ms. Hawkins got to eat. Mr. Brown got to eat. You'll go to someone else and be able to, you don't ask the price. You just go spend. So treat us accordingly so we can be able to help you out.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Look, and Mr. Brown likes to eat good. It's important to that. Not like I used to, but I'm just saying. I like to eat. So, one thing about that, when it comes to resetting our mind, because that's one thing I want to discuss in this credit basics portion, is the idea that we have to have a kind of a mental reset to really kind of understand what we're moving forward, especially if we came in with bad credit, right? So,
Yeah.
Miss Hawkins, you brought this up. When it comes to our credit score, right? And you both kind of said a little bit about this, but is there a such thing as good or bad credit, or should we be looking at it in terms of risk? Because I think, Attorney Hawkins, you said a little bit more about the idea of risk. Should we
Right,
be
right.
looking at it in terms of risk or good or bad credit? Like, how do I know when I have quote unquote good credit? Like, what does
Right.
that mean? I mean,
I think
800
that's it.
sounds good, but I can do stuff before
Right.
800.
Right, exactly. And that is the message. If there was just one message that I want to get out here today to folks, and that is don't be afraid of your starting point, because we've all had one. We've all had a starting point, and it has highs and it has lows. But the important thing is you got to know what to do to get it to the place where it needs to be. I have heard a lot of controversial conversation about whether or not you go into debt to go to college. 7 days out of the 7 days a week, I'm going to tell you, and I'm a little biased because I went to undergrad and law school, but my message always is you invest in yourself, because when you get more education, usually, and there are a few outliers, there's always an anomaly, but for the most part, you're going to make more revenue. The income that I earn now, I would not be able to earn had I not had these 2 degrees. So you've got to take risk, absolutely. And you have to start somewhere. Don't be afraid to start.
Thank you. That's good. That's good. Let me ask you two more, well, maybe three more questions, and I want to kind of transition into another part because I really want to get Attorney Hawkins onto this business portion because I felt a lot of good energy around that. So I want to get there. Um, Dominique, I'm gonna shoot to you. Ms. Hawkins, I'm gonna shoot to you as well. It's kind of a double pronged question. The first part of this question is, and I've discussed this with people, and I hear this a lot, especially when it comes to partnering in marriage. If I get, and true or false, if I get married, my credit and my partner's credit are gonna merge, and I'm gonna hurt their income or credit score.
No.
False.
I have
He's like, no, that doesn't happen.
no,
Thank you.
you know,
I hear a lot of myths around marriage and this idea that if we get married, then our incomes are going to be da 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 da. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But now I can say Dominique told me that this is
No,
not how
that's
it works.
right.
because but
And this is,
but one of the
I'm so
things,
sorry.
all right. But one of the things is that I do believe in when it comes to dealing with credit and finance. I think it's I'm a big opponent of communication. I think that the downfall of most people with their finances is called communication. We as males, we have an ego where we don't want to tell our significant other that we do not have. So she might spend or he might spend, and then next thing you know, the checking account is in a negative, and everybody looking around like, what happened? Now you have an argument,
Who
which
did it?
is that man could have communicated to his wife and said, sweetheart, I ran into some financial difficulties at this current moment, and we cannot be able to take that fancy trip to Miami, and then we cannot go to Cape Town, South Africa. But we as men, we like, nah, we're gonna figure it out. I'm a bar, still do whatever I have to do to make sure she's happy, and then eventually that catches up with you.
One of the
I
best
don't think.
tools that I have, I'm so sorry,
No, go
that
ahead.
I
Go
have
ahead,
found
Go ahead, Attorney Hawkins. Go ahead. I'm waiting for you. Go ahead.
perfect timing. It was almost like Dominique was throwing me an assist right underneath the basket. It's perfect.
Get it. Get it. And she
One of
used a
the best
sport now.
tools,
Go ahead.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Dominique in Atlanta, it all makes sense, right?
Right.
One of the best tools that I do in my practice is prenuptial agreements. And most
Mm.
people hear the word prenuptial agreement and they think, well, I'm not going to set up to get married just to get divorced. But one of the brilliant things that we do is called financial counseling. So when you come
Mm-hmm.
in and you're about to get married and you're in love, you have to fill out a financial affidavit. And that
Okay.
financial affidavit tells your partner all of your debts, all of your
Mm.
assets, what your income is at the
I didn't
moment,
know that.
and what
That's good stuff.
your liabilities are.
Ooh.
And I think that's critical. I
Yeah.
think every married couple should know, what am I walking into? How much money does
Yeah.
this person earn after taxes? Because that's the money that counts. How many assets
Right.
do they have if you needed to liquidate something? How much debt do they have? Because while the husband's and the wife's credit doesn't merge, more than likely you're going to use your partner to do better. So if we have two incomes, then I'm going to put my name on the house. with your name on the house. But I got to make sure that we're both pushing in the right direction.
Yes.
Right. Let me ask you this, Attorney Hawkins. When it comes to that, let's say we go through the process, right? We come to you, we getting right, we about to do this thing. When it comes to paying off debts, repairing credit, what's that process like? Like, how long does it take for stuff to come off my credit, for my credit to go up? Because it seems like it's quick to drop. It takes a long
Right.
time to get it up. It feels like it takes forever.
That is so true. That is so true. So first,
Could you
you're
help me
probably
with that? Because that drives me
yeah.
nuts. Help me with that.
It's a tough one. So I like the debt snowball feature, and I would love to hear from Dominique as a financial expert about what his best methodologies are. But I like the idea of taking your smallest debt and getting it out of the way. The one exception I have, you've got one of these crazy store credit cards that's at a 28% interest rate compared to even a smaller card that's maybe like a 5% interest rate. We got to get the nonsense out of the way quickly, particularly when you've become one and you're married. If you only have two
Right.
credit cards and you're at 0% interest for 6 months, you got to help attack your partner's card, the one that's sitting at 28% interest, because that is bringing you down.
Yes.
Pay that off first, right?
I like
Pay
that.
that off first.
I like that.
And
like
you'll
that.
have more clarity about that when you complete these financial affidavits before you even say I do.
I like that. I like that. Dominique, anything to add on?
No, exactly. The same thing that she said. Start small and work your way up to the big numbers. That's one, and she's absolutely right on that. And it takes 7 years for it typically to drop off if you can't make that payment. So when you get to 7 years, it falls off. You might have those creditors calling you on the phone, but don't give in. After 7 years, you have nothing to worry about because they're trying to get paid.
You said don't give in.
Don't
For the
give
Lord
in.
is a strong tower.
Yes, but like one of the things is, if you can't do it yourself, find someone to bring in, a coach, someone to be able to help you out, to be able to help mentor you through that process. Find someone who have been through that process, because if you don't know, you don't know, and then you trying to figure it out, and they think, like I said, it'd be a real snowball. Be 2 or 3 years later, and you trying to get rid of that debt that you currently have on your credit.
Yeah, that's real. You know what? Speaking of that, you just answered the question I had, which was, if let's say I've paid off a debt, I'm trying to, but for some reason it will not come off my credit report. Do I then do I do it myself, or is it better for me to go to an agency? When it comes to that repair, if I got the mindset and I'm willing to get down and dirty, what do I do if I can't get the stuff off my report, but I know I paid it?
Well, you got to dispute it, and you can dispute it yourself, or you can get someone else to do it. And you get someone else, because I've seen prices from $250 to $1,500, and basically they all sending out letters to your creditors once a month, which you can do yourself, but typically sometimes we get a little lazy and we want other people to do the work for us. But like I said, if you can't do it, getting a professional, there's nothing wrong with it if you have the disposable income to be able to do it. Because, you got it.
Okay,
So it is everything in this world.
Got you.
In
so
America, right?
There's nothing wrong with getting a professional to help you, fix your debt once you're in a mindset to do so.
Yes, there's nothing wrong with that at all. Because it's like what you do when you need a personal
Okay.
trainer. You want to get in shape. We pay that $300 to $400 to give him. It's the same thing if you need a lawyer. You can put her on retainer, or you can put a financial professional to help coach you through, your situation, or just coach you through, that mediator, that one in the middle when you make an argument with your significant other. That could be that, that second person that comes in and say, well, he's right or she's right.
Let me ask y'all both this question. Attorney Hawkins, you already commented on this a little bit. Dominique, chime in as well. Let's say I pull my credit. All I really have on my credit is student loans. That's all I got, right? But my student loans are not small. The average student loan, especially if you come out of an HBCU, is $27,000. Some other big schools are a lot more. I personally know people with student loans in the six-figure numbers, right?
Right.
But that's the only thing pulling down their credit. Like, should they be dogged about getting that student loan off their credit, or is it more something that you just manage it as you go? I guess this is kind of a follow up to the is all debt created equal question.
Right, right. If that's the only thing that they have on their credit that's bringing down their credit, then that means they have a lot of disposable income. So my suggestion would be, there are no credit cards, there's no mortgage, there's no car note, and the only thing you have is your student loans. Make a double payment. And you don't have to commit to that at the beginning of every month. If your student loan debt is payable on the first of the month, you make that payment, whatever the minimum is, whatever you budgeted. And then when you get around the middle of the month, you know what your monthly bills are. You paid your cable, you paid your lights, you paid your rent or your mortgage. Now you send an additional payment to your student loan. When I was growing up, my father was a janitor. And he paid off one of our homes that we lived in 15 years as opposed to 30 because he sent a double payment almost every single month. Now, December was Christmas, so that was a month that they didn't see two mortgage payments. But the idea
Right.
is you've got right? You got to do what you got to do, but you got to be resourceful. You got to be resourceful. And if you're serious about making your credit the very best that it can be to open up these doors for you, then you'll do what it takes.
Okay. Okay. Got you. Got you. Got you. When do you think? Let's say I'm on the ball. I'm rolling, right? I'm snowballing. I've paid off some things. I'm knocking them down. How quickly does it take for you to really start seeing results on your credit report?
Mm-hmm. I would
I
love
say
to hear
typically,
Dominic.
I say typically 6 months. It takes give yourself at least 6 months to be able to see a big difference within your credit score. But like one of the things is I truly believe is that every situation is different from everyone else. You know, nothing is cookie cutter, and I want to make sure all listeners are listening and taking in the information we're giving them, and think, okay, if I do A, B, C, D, it's gonna work for me. This is not gonna work for everybody. So that's why I always say seek professional help, because my situation, your situation, are two different ones. And Miss Hawkins, you know, her debt might be larger than mine, but she's managing. My debt might be small, and I'm not managing mine at all, because some people are at Walmart working, and some people are doctors and lawyers who still can't be paid. So everything is different. What ended up happening is the numbers are different. Somebody might got 300,000, somebody might got 27,000.
Right. The only thing that I would add there, Derek, is when you make these large payments, so a credit card went from having a balance to having no balance, call the credit reporting agency and tell them, I want you all to know I have paid this bill off. And that's when diligence comes into play. And so we talked about this earlier. Do you hire a professional or do you try to fix your credit yourself? Even if you hire a professional, no one's going to advocate for you like you will. So when you do these things, it's been 7 years now that foreclosure can come off. When it's been 7 years now that bankruptcy can roll off, you've got to take some initiative and call these folks and say, hey, I need you to know that this major change has happened. And they will push it faster for you as opposed to just waiting when the natural reporting takes place.
Let me ask you a question, y'all. You two are amicable professionals doing your thing. Let's say I'm a blue collar person and I'm just trying to get things done, right? I don't have all the time in the world to be tracking all this stuff. So I want to enlist an agency to help me, right? How do I know I'm getting scammed, or if I'm not getting scammed? Because I definitely see all types of advertisements online, Instagram, when I'm scrolling through my news feed, Facebook. How do I know which agency to go with to really help me with my credit? Because there seems to be a lot of scammers, and then people who are actually doing the work, or maybe just a pop-up business that's not bad, but you may not want to go with them. So what should I look for if I'm looking for a professional to help me?
This is the same advice I give when you're looking for any professional. be it a lawyer, a doctor, a financial expert to help you fix your credit. I prefer word of mouth more than any other type of advertisement that exists. If you can speak to someone about their own personal experience and how this professional directly helped them, they are more likely to be able to help you. Most of my business as a lawyer comes from other clients that I have helped, and they can tell their friends, family, loved ones, this is what Melissa was able to do for me. Now, I recognize that's not always possible. So the next best thing
Mhm.
that you can do is look at their reviews, not on their website, but on Google or Angie's List or any of these other third party places that review folks, and they have a process to do so. So if you look up my law firm right now, we have stellar reviews on Google. We didn't pay for those. We can't take them down. We haven't to do that.
Shameless
So I
plug.
would go to the third party source, right? Yeah, exactly. And just make sure that these folks are credible and that they're really working hard for folks.
And
Got
just
you.
to piggyback on Miss Hawkins, she's absolutely right. Consumer Report is a way you can go look up, companies' information. And also too, it's 2020. Google everything. You Google
Google
your date
everything.
on Facebook. You pull up on Facebook. You pull up on Instagram. You can do the same thing
True.
when it comes to using your money.
Yeah.
Got you. Got you. Got you. That's really good to know, actually. Um, okay, so I want to get to this part because I think Attorney Hawkins had some goodies for me at the beginning of the show when it came to using credit. Um, I want to talk about the idea that once we've kind of um, reset this mindset of how of getting the basics down, repairing our credit, kind of working through that process, which seems kind of in a sense straightforward but very difficult to adjust. So if we get through those stages,
Mm-hmm.
we got to figure out how to use it appropriately. Um, how do we strategize with this credit power? How should we be looking at it? Let's say my aim was to start a business. It feels like at every different level of credit that you get another level of privilege, right? So if you're in the 600s, you get credit card offers. If you get 700s, you get different kinds of business things that come in the mail. What how do we as we go up, how should we look at using our credit to build for the future, whether we want to use it to help our children or how do we move with this credit now that we've worked on restoring it?
Right, right. And I think Dominique touched on this earlier. Everything is about leverage. The only reason after you've developed your credit, so now we know we've got a strong credit and now we're getting these offers. We're getting credit lines and credit cards and no interest loans and 0% for 6 months. When those things start to happen, now you've got to start leveraging. When I look at my credit
Okay.
these days, I've done a lot of work. I'm now thinking, how can this result in positive income for me and my family? If the answer is not
Mm,
clear, I'm not interested. I'm not interested. I always
okay.
believe going into debt and therefore exercising your credit, using your credit is always wonderful for education. If you already know, and I'll use real estate as an example, that's my husband's profession. If I can
Okay.
leverage a credit line for a home that costs $20,000, but I know that I can rent that home out for $700, or perhaps maybe there's already a tenant in there. That sounds like a no-brainer.
Right.
That's how I'm going to utilize that credit. And you are right. The more
Okay.
money that you have, the more credit capacity that you have, the bigger and better things you can do. It is a stair step ladder. The good news is I still do believe in the year of our Lord 2020 that the opportunity exists for everyone to get to this same place, to enter this American race.
Gotcha.
And she
Gotcha.
and she's absolutely right on that. Because one of the things is we have to understand when you are leveraging that debt, it's easy to get into debt, but hard to get out of it. And you have to
Yes, indeed.
understand that. One of the things I've been telling a lot of my clients for 2020, especially when Corona hit, that first week, no lie, I was shook because most of my the classes that I teach in schools, after school program.
Right.
And I'm
Right.
like wondering where my money gonna come from. And then that next week, it made me realize that this is an opportunity. There's three things I think people should come out of this current climate. The first thing I tell people is that you should come up with creative ideas, or you need to be able to get more education. And when I mean more education, for me, you can be able to get a certification, or you can learn something so you can be able to make more money. So the next thing I tell people is that your mortgage and your car loan, some companies allow you to push it to the back end for 3 months. So now you have extra
Mm,
money. The extra money can be
Yeah.
used to pay your debts off on your credit, or you can be able to save it to have 3 to 6 months of emergency funds. And those are things I've been
right.
telling most of my clients. And so, but it's like you said, it takes discipline and have an understanding, because believe me, Nordstrom and Saks having 40-60% off. And I know it's hard when you're looking online and you see that, but you have to have restraints and start and look towards the future, because in 2008, a lot of people came out being millionaires. And why can't you become that person in 2020?
So here's my question. That's a very good segue, Dominique. I want to ask y'all this. When it comes to our financial strategy moving forward, how do we accommodate this idea of COVID? Because the coronavirus has seen some people furloughed, they got some people laid off, they got some people working from home who, God, thank God, still have their jobs. Um, when it comes to if I'm on the bottom trying to rebuild, yeah, it's a mindset change, but do how do I factor in some of the things that are happening with Corona? For instance, there's some people who, because of some interesting buying choices, couldn't find toilet paper for a good while. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you walk out of the bathroom with some stuck on your shoe, you were flaunting your wealth at that point. So I mean, how do we how do, how do we think about this idea of COVID? Should we be more disciplined as far as saving, knowing that until we get back to a place where we're fully opened up, our jobs may be a little bit more rickety than normal? How do we factor in stuff like this moving forward?
Well, one of the things I look at that usually every 7 years we have a crisis. I think we had the mortgage
Yeah.
crisis back in 2000, and before that we had .com, and then because of the great economy that Obama has set in a trend to set for the future, it went over to a second presidency for 4 years, and then the Corona came and it changed everything. But one of the things is I see us coming out of this, and that's why I say that we have three things we can do with our money to be able to get out of here. One of the things, I just don't want people to be able to sit and not do nothing. Because at the end of the day, yeah, we can pray, but God said you have to put in the work. If you put in no work, you receive nothing at all.
Amen.
And
Amen.
so what I'm saying to everyone, make sure that you come out with a game plan to win. And like I said, you can have professionals take that stimulus $1,200 check and call Miss Hawkins and say, Miss Hawkins, I need your help. I can't give you the whole 1,200, but I can give you half.
Give you some of it. Corona has taught me that you can plan for the best, but you never know what's going to happen. And if you talk to
Right.
someone who say that they're ready for this, I think that they are telling you a lie. The two
Mm.
things that I want people to focus on, because this is not the last natural disaster. In fact, I don't even think that we're done with this experience yet. I think that we still have some
Right.
time to go.
Right.
And you never knew that you needed an emergency fund before, you know it now. And now, under hopefully assuming that you still have a job, it's a great time to
Right.
start saving right now, today. If you didn't start already, it is not too late. You're not driving. You shouldn't be outside, even if you want to go outside. Most places are, they're just not ready to receive customers yet. So now's the time for
Right.
you to stop being a consumer and start being a producer. Start saving your money. I say 3 months because I want to be gentle with the people. Dominique will probably say 6 months of a savings. Either way, start with 1 week. I know it's shocking, but start with 1 week. The other message, y'all, is people are dying who were healthy. People are dying who had loved ones. You have to have a will. It is critically important that you have life insurance, and that's something you want to go see Dominique about. It is also critically important that you have a will so that your loved ones are not left holding the bag, wondering, well, what do I do now? Where do I bury this person? What happens to these things that they left over? And we all know in our culture, more than most, people end up, instead of mourning, fighting over the living room chair. We got to stop that. We got to cut that out. And it's time for folks to be mature about this idea that our mortality is certain. Everyone is going to die. So now that we know that's going to take place, Be healthy, sure, but get yourself a will. And that's a service that my office does provide. So there's no confusion when and if, not if, because you got to go, but when you go, everyone knows what you're doing.
But I want to add on to Miss Hawkins as well. Miss Hawkins, like you said, a will. I think in our community, the part that we miss out is the trust part. And a lot of people don't know about putting a trust in place. You can also put a trust within the will to be able to dictate how the money should be spent and what should go where it should go. Because, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm not going to go too far in depth. But probate court sometimes is not good for everybody because you got 9 months to make a decision. You got 9 good old months to make a decision. If you can't pay those taxes, and hey, it'll hurt.
It will. And there's
every month.
There's no reason to be there. Not when you can plan. A will, and I'm just gonna put this out here, y'all, is $600. And I know that everybody is doing a lot of different things with $600. But for $600, you can get a simple will with trust powers included. That means that I leave a chair to my now 13-year-old cousin. Well, I don't want her to have that until she turns 18. That's the trust function that Dominique is speaking of. It's critically important. It comes with a will minimally. If you get more fancier, it gets a little bit more expensive. But the point is, this is something that is plannable. Plan what you can.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you for that. Thank you for both for that. I want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to wrap up. In this age of Corona, you both of y'all mentioned and talked about this a little bit, but I want to hit it a little bit more directly. Dominique says some people came out of the last financial crisis millionaires. Okay. Rebuilt credit, knew how to get it right. We repaired it. We're using it now. Where should I be looking to invest, if I can, in this current season of COVID? A will is one place. You've already mentioned that, Attorney Hawkins. Yes. Where else would y'all two suggest? Keep it about 1 to 2 minutes. So we're about to wrap up in a minute.
Okay.
Sure thing.
One of the things that I think, Ms. Hawkins, getting an insurance policy in place. If you do have more discretionary income, looking to get into real estate, because one of the things is, we hate to say this, but some people are going to lose their jobs and they can't be able to afford their homes. And some of the homes you can probably be able to take over. If you're looking to get a home and you still have a job, you probably can get the desired home that you want in the neighborhood. But one of the things is you got to do your research and get a professional to be able to help you out. You just getting online and Google looking for a home, you probably ain't gonna find that $400,000 home that's now worth $200,000. So get a professional to be able to help you out. Because one of my friends, he always tell me, he said, I just tell him, I said, these are beautiful, nice houses. He said, Dominic, every time everywhere, in every neighborhood there's a foreclosure. They just don't be on the market that long. You have to have your cash and your credit in place to be able to get those homes.
What about stocks?
I love stocks. I have stocks myself. And what I always tell folks is I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not a day trader. I'm in courts all day long. So that's not where I spend my time. But I am very in tune to what I like. So I have Amazon packages to this house more than my husband would like. So I use it, and I know all my friends use it. I absolutely have stock in Amazon. Now, Amazon isn't probably the best company to invest in at this moment unless you got a lot of discretionary income because the stock prices are so high right now. But think about some of the other things that you love that we know are going to come back, right? We know they're going to be popular again. Start investing in those things now. If you love a lipstick that you're always going to go get, a pair of shoes, a product, a computer, a laptop, if you know you're going to keep them in business, then you should get some of the business by investing in that same stock. The only other thing that absolutely bet on yourself always, is it is always a good time, even now, to invest in yourself. And by that, I mean, if there's something that you were interested in, if you have always wanted to know how to, I don't know, make a cocktail and go to mixology classes, they now have those online. If you were interested in getting a community course to learn practically anything, you can sign up now online. Take the stimulus money and do something to stimulate your mind. Investing in yourself with education is always a great idea.
Gotcha.
You know,
Gotcha.
like you said before, like one of the things is index funds are a great way to invest your money as well. And also, you got to realize the market over the last 30 years has been at an average of 8%. And so this market going to turn around and it's going to eventually grow. So that's no problem at all. But one of the things I did, like what Ms. Hawkins said, is that invest in yourself. Some people, might not have no more than 3 or 4 or 5,000. I think the best investment is yourself. I think when I first got into this industry, my mentor told me, I was telling him, I was talking to a business owner, and he said, Dominique, it's nothing you can really almost teach that person. That person making $2 or $3 million a year. I said, what you mean? He said, their best investment is their self. So what they're gonna do every year is take $1 million or $2 million, invest back in their business, so they can make another $2 or $3 million the next following year. So you have to invest in
Right.
yourself and make yourself a commodity out here. For instance, like you said, get some type of certification. So when the job market does change, you are the one that they want to hire because you have all these certifications. That's one of the things that I think a lot of people in our community don't know. We think degrees is only it, but get the degrees and the certification behind, you're a very deadly individual in the job market or in business, period, because you become certified.
That's right.
But one of the things I want to lead off with, because I know we're about to get off, what I teach my kids at the end of every class, and I believe this, like the 5 people you hang around are the income, lifestyle, and attitudes you're going to have. So if you're in a typical hang around 3 to 4 people that at the end of the day, that drink a lot of alcohol, that smoke, that most likely you're going to be that 5th person that join in. If that person decides that, 3 or 4 people running scams, you're going to be a part of that. If 4 of your people making $40,000 a year, and you don't decide to be able to make it to that next plateau, you got to hang around people who make $100,000 so they can be able to teach you and pull you up. Because believe it or not, the $40,000 a year conversation is going to be different than a $100,000 a year conversation person. So
I can imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Well, y'all, thank you so much for this time. This was such a good conversation. I appreciate you so much. Attorney Hawkins, where can we find you on social media? Give us all that juicy contact information.
Absolutely. Hawkins Legal Group is the name of my firm. We are on Instagram at Hawkins Legal Group and also on Facebook at Hawkins Legal Group. I'm also on Facebook. We have a wonderful website, hawkinslegalgroup.com, and we would love to hear from you.
Got you. Mr. Dominique, your turn, my good man.
All right, you can find me at Juice Financial on Instagram and also on Facebook. And also I have my own personal Facebook as well. There's Dominique.Juice. And I also have my website at .juicefinancial.com. And typically on my sites, I give positive information, hopefully to uplift and build you up.
Well, it was an awesome time having you both here. Mr. Dominique, I promise you, sir, I'm going to learn how to pronounce that name before I die. I promise. I promise. I respect people's name, man. I respect your name and your title. I promise. I'm going to get it together. Attorney Hawkins, Dominique, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being with us. Internet family, church family, everybody who's watching right now on Hope TV, Roku, Facebook, wherever you are. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be doing more, so hopefully you'll bear with us as we continue on our journey toward financial freedom. Thank you so much for joining us.
God bless you all.